All right, welcome back to the Reinvent the Hunt podcast. We're excited tonight. We actually have Robin on from HotShot Archery releases and out in Utah, right?
HotShot is located in Utah. I live in Missouri, though. I work remotely for them.
Okay, awesome. This is episode 29, and I know the intro of this episode. I want to talk to Kevin a little bit from Outdoor Pro Shop because he had a pretty exciting last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, Kevin?
It was last week. Yeah, last week I went up to Northfield, Maine for with Eastern Ridge Adventures and went on a week-long bear hunt up there. So it was great. I mean, seen a lot of bear. I shot a bear on my fourth day. Um, it was wild. Like I was sitting in the ground blind at one time and had moose 10 feet away from me,
That's
just
cool.
just walking by me. But yeah, it was real cool. Those guys are real nice up there. They have a great lodge, great setup. I mean, if you're looking to go on a bear hunt and like, I mean, it's almost guaranteed to see a bear. I mean, if you can sit still and have your scent control, they have a great what they have a lot of bait sites up there and they like rotate throughout the bait sites. Like they do a really great job. I mean, Josh Rhodes with Eastern Ridge Adventures been in business for 22 years and I know guys that have been going up there for 18 years. I mean, it's a great time all the way around. But yeah,
That's
while I'm
awesome.
getting a bear, I used my bow for the first 3 days. I had like a 275-pound black bear come out, but you know he's not dumb. He didn't stay in there long. He went and laid down. I didn't get a shot with my bow, so the next day I took my gun and that just got him.
That's very
So
cool. That's cool. I
yeah,
know
it
it's
was
a
it was a
Same bear?
great. What's that?
Was it the same bear?
It wasn't. It was a little smaller bear. So the average size bear in Maine is 150 pounds. The one I shot was 142. So it was about an average size. Uh, I wish it was the bigger bear, but they don't they don't get that big by being dumb. They only make a couple.
Yeah.
They only make a couple mistakes, right?
yeah, for
So
sure.
they have some 300, 400 pound bears on camera up there too. So, but
That's
like I
crazy.
said,
Awesome.
they they come a half an hour after dark to
Yeah,
eat. I mean,
super
they're not
late.
dumb.
They're so
Yep.
smart. I agree,
Yeah,
man.
they
They are
are.
so smart.
So my buddy was hunting a different stand, and that I think it's almost. They said it was pushing 400 pounds. It came in and it at 6:30 one evening, and nobody was there hunting.
Oh man.
And it didn't mess up after that. My buddy hunted that stand 2 nights after that, and it didn't mess up again.
The way it works.
They're
Yep,
smart.
yep.
I'm
But
amazed at how big their pads are so huge, and then they walk so quiet you can't even
dude,
hear
they're
them come in.
silent.
They're just
They they
there.
they tell you that. They tell you
Yeah,
that before you even hunt. They're like, these things are silent. You will
yeah,
not hear them. And they're like little
yeah.
ninjas.
Exactly.
It was a great time. But yeah, I'm gonna get a half body mount of it. So it's
Oh
gonna look
man,
good in the living room.
that's
That's
very cool.
awesome.
That's
Robin, you
really
ever
cool.
been bear hunting?
Yes, I have a handful of times. I've gotten lucky enough to shoot two with a bow. Both
There
of
you
them
go.
were in Minnesota, and I'm itching to go again. So this talk about that is kind of getting me a little more itchy than what
Yeah.
I have
Yeah,
been.
for sure.
That was my goal was to get one with a bow, but it was getting towards the last couple of days, and I was like, I'm leaving here with a bear.
Yeah,
Just didn't get an opportunity with a bow, so I was like, all right, taking the gun.
understand. Yeah, you got to
So
get
next
down.
year we're already booked for next year. So next year I'll take the bow, and I'm obviously aiming for a bigger bear. So
That's very cool. I
yep,
know I got smoked in Newfoundland. They didn't have the bait out quite early enough, and it was early season, that sort of thing. And I was sitting over a bait can, and this 400 pounder came out at like 25 yards broadside. I saw his nose. He nosed out first, and then he kind of did a half circle around and
yep,
came out toward the barrel. Real sneaky. You couldn't hear him. And I was so dumb to not draw before he stepped out. But I was trying to wait for his eye. Was like his eye was on. It was like it would no motion. Well, then he ended up picking up that flashing the flashing LED LED on the GoPro I had out, and didn't like it and turned and it messed it up. I should have had him harvested, but it was like they're so big and completely silent, and they tell you that, right, Kevin? You don't
yeah,
really believe. They're like, oh, here's something, right? But nothing,
nah,
nothing.
you don't hear nothing.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
they tell you
Yeah,
that from the beginning. Like you have to be paying attention because I mean the woods in Maine are so thick as well. Like it's so dense.
mm-hmm.
Like they only have you can only see like where the barrel is, like 10-foot circle around the barrel on most of their bait sites. So you really have to be paying attention because that one just literally walked through. Like it was less than a minute he walked through. And if you weren't paying attention for that minute, you would have never known there was a bear there because they are
Yeah.
totally silent.
That's crazy. Never
Yeah.
been.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a blast.
Rob, we're excited to have you on tonight. Obviously, bear hunting archery and whitetail archery. And obviously, we talk bows a lot in the podcast. We've talked about a lot of different types of bows, from trad setups to compounds to crossbows, but we haven't really gotten into the releases a whole lot yet. I think tonight would be a good opportunity for you at HotShot to talk about what products you have and the why behind them.
Yeah, so I do appreciate you guys having me on, and I know Kenny made this connection. Of course, we all, a lot of us have a little bit of connections going through Spy Point, so I do appreciate it. Yeah, so HotShot has been around for getting close to 50 years now. A lot of people don't realize that, but HotShot was really the first ones on the scene with what we call a thumb button these days, or a handheld release. Dave White's the owner now. I work for him, and he hasn't owned it the whole time, but he had an opportunity about 15 years ago or so to buy the company. I was already working for him with one of his other companies, and he asked me what I thought, and I said, you know, it's a well-known name, it's a good product. Everybody that bow hunts with a compound needs a release, so go for it. So yeah, that's kind of how that all came to be. And we do make handheld thumb buttons. We also have index finger releases and several different varieties of both. We don't have a back tension at the moment. We discontinued our previous version of a back tension, but we're working on a pull through tension release right now as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Can you go through, for everyone out there, maybe they're getting into archery, or they've been in archery and they haven't changed up their setup? And I'll be real straightforward with my setup. I've always used the index finger wrist strap release just because of what I grew up with using and pretty comfortable with. I've tried the thumb button, and then I tried back tension, which is like absolute, like a shotgun going off. It scares the crap out of me most of the time because it's like, when's this thing gonna rocket out of here? And I'm not used to that, but a lot of guys love them. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of each product you have and different setups there?
Yeah, so let's just start by talking about an index finger release, because most of us, that's what we started hunting with, and a lot of us still hunt with them, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But what I will say is, even before I started working for HotShot, I was guilty. I had a release, same release that I had for 10 years, never bothered to clean it, never messed with it. I got it out, I shot it, it worked. I'm just going to say that 90% of the people that are shooting an index finger now, if they would buy a newer, updated version of the release they're shooting, even if it's not a hot shot, they're probably going to be surprised at how well that shoots compared to their 10, 12, 15-year-old index finger. There's different, levels of index fingers. We have what I would just call a basic version, and we also have an open hook, more refined mechanism that shoots incredibly crisp. It's called the impetus release. And in my opinion, it's one of the very best index release mechanisms on the market. It's fantastic.
I will attest to that, because that one there I have shot before. I don't own one, but a friend of mine owns one, and it is sweet.
Yeah, it's just a very, very underrated release. I've killed quite a few animals with it. Of course, when we were developing it, I tested it. And, Dave likes me to shoot all of our stuff, so there's no telling what I might kill the next thing with. But it is a super nice release. And then we have a cinch and a nano, or the brand, or the models of just the basic index finger, and those are really, really good releases too. In fact, pretty underrated. But there's nothing complicated about them. They're simple. But I've worked a lot of shows and a lot of booths, and the question that you asked about, I'm thinking about a handheld and why should I? What about for hunting? We hear those 100 times a day at every show we do. And before I go into the advantages and the why, I'm just going to tell you and all the listeners, I can't emphasize the number of people that come to our booth in the last couple years that have said, it took me forever to change to a thumb button, but now that I did, I'm never going back. We hear that over and over and over, and very, very, very seldom does someone come up and say, I went to one that I'm going back to an index finger. I mean, it's 1 out of 1,000 people we talk to that say they're
I'm
going to
one
go.
of them.
Yeah.
I'm one of
You
them
have?
that I switched to a thumb button and I'll never go back. I
Oh,
don't
gotcha,
know.
yeah.
It just I don't know. I love it so much. I just feel like it's easier and I'm definitely more accurate with it than an index finger. I don't know why. It did take a little bit of getting used to, but I'll never go back. Thumb
Yeah, I
button's the way
think,
to go for me.
yeah, the advantages really comes into a more consistent anchor point.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about an index finger, you know, of course, there's always a strap, and that strap's going to vary a little bit. So your release is never going to be exactly the same length.
That's true.
And when you have a handheld release and you come back, you know, finding a spot on your face that never changes is a lot more easy
Right.
with a handheld. And then just the fact that the mechanisms are far more advanced typically in a handheld than an index finger. And all that just equates to more accuracy and repeatability, which of course we all know that's what archery is about, right? Consistency and repeatability.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as the thumb releases, can you adjust the pressure on those? Is that something you can set?
It depends on the model, but all of our, I would call our higher end models. We used to call them target models, but now so many people are hunting with them. We don't like to call them target models anymore. But the better releases are going to be adjustable in both tension and travel. And in fact, I use those adjustments a lot myself randomly because I have target panic really bad. So I feel target panic creeping in on me, I'll just grab my release and I'll just randomly adjust both of those. Completely ditches the target panic because now my brain is tricked. You started to memorize what the release is going to feel like, and it totally changes it and keeps it at bay for me. Yeah.
That makes absolute sense.
Yeah, I never
a
thought
lot of
about that
people don't
before.
know that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fantastic tool. Like I use it a lot.
Yeah, I
Several times
honestly
a season.
didn't know they made ones that could be adjusted like that. That's pretty cool. Now I'm gonna have to get one.
Our vapors are really made more for hunting than targets, and they're adjustable in tension, but not travel.
I
But even
gotcha.
just adjusting that tension is still a trick for your brain to help the
Right.
target panic. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. Couple of questions I have, you know, with the thumb versus the index. Is there any, like with the index, I know the strap on your wrist, but is there an issue of like people tend to rotate the hand, like, you know, not just the anchor point, but like when you let go or you hit the trigger with the thumb or the index, people tend to, because I know if I don't tell my eye to visually follow the arrow to the target, I tend to want to pull right away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get that target panic, you tend to want to pull to look with your eye where the arrow is going.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes what I'll do is if I can hold concentration on following the nock to the lighted nock to the target and not moving that hand grip on the bow, it's like the arrow's long enough, it'll start moving back into it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, you know, two people walking and you're separated by 1 degree. After a mile, you're, you know, half mile apart from each other. It seems like if I can concentrate on that, it'll be a lot more accurate of a shot. But if you look at the index finger release versus a thumb, it looks like to me, I think the index has a chance of rotating a little bit more, right? Maybe because you're holding the thumb across, aren't you? You're holding almost a bar in your hand.
Yeah, with an index finger, you're saying, right?
Yeah, versus the thumb.
Yeah. So for sure, there's more control on exactly where your loop position is going to be with a handheld. I don't want particularly think that it's a negative or an index finger on what you're talking about, and that little bit of a twist one way or the other. And I'll tell you why. One of the keys to switch to a handheld, I tell everyone that asks me about this, about if I'm shooting an index finger, what should I do when I switch to a handheld? I tell everyone, make sure your string loop is a 3/4 inch long or longer. And the reason is a lot of people like a super short loop with an index finger. But when you have a super short loop and you go to a handheld, just what you just said, you're going to come back and turn into your anchor. You're twisting the loop.
Okay.
It's
All
that
right.
3/4 inch length is like you figured out is the magic line of eliminating any torque to the string that comes with that twist. So I recommend, even if someone's shooting an index finger, to keep it on the longer side, and that helps eliminate any of those inconsistencies with that little bit of a twist in the index release.
That makes absolute sense too. It's a good
Josh,
point.
like I think we've all been there, Josh, where we get that target panic and we like to pull away to see where our shot goes. It's like a
Yep.
natural reaction, right?
It is. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really think it has anything to do with the release. What I do is like when I hit my thumb release, I don't move anything until that arrow hits the target, right?
Yeah.
So I'm
Yep.
just staring, and the whole time I don't move until it hits. Because yeah, we'll have a tendency to pull, and then we pull the whole bow, and we
Yeah.
don't even realize it, and we're pulling shots. I think we've all done it. We're all guilty
Yeah.
of it at some point.
I've never
But
done it.
I just yeah, I bet.
It's hard. Yeah.
But
You know?
yeah, you just gotta stay focused and don't move until that arrow hits
Yeah.
where it's going.
What are you gonna say,
It's gonna
Kevin?
sound odd, but you know what helped me doing that was playing golf. You're supposed to be looking at the tee after you hit the ball, right? Not looking at the ball. And that's what I started. That's how I trained myself with my bow as well. Is look, but don't stop your aim until
Yeah.
after you hear that arrow hit.
That's so smart.
Right.
Just-
Yep.
Yeah,
And
that's so smart.
They started with golf. That's the way it started with me.
Yeah, and that's so true too. Because if I tell my brain to not deceive myself and pull, and say, hey, I want to watch that knock go through the pin. Like I'm holding the pin on the target area in the animal, right? I want to watch the arrow go through the pin to smack the animal. Every time it's fine. Every time I can get my brain to do that, but then my body says, hey, that pin's in the road, move it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like for some reason, as small as the pin is, it still wants to move it.
It's usually when you're actually hunting too.
It is.
It's like you want to see.
Yeah.
I get it. We get it.
Yep. You'll see that.
But that's actually is another good point, or an advantage to handheld is we've all heard the term punching a release, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's much more difficult to punch a handheld than it is an index finger.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is most handheld releases, I mean, I can't speak for every brand, but I can speak for all the HotShots that we make. The thumb barrel is almost infinitely adjustable, and so you can get it nice and deep in your thumb and come back so you are holding it with your whole hand, and you can't punch it with your thumb.
Right.
You're left really triggering that one of two ways, either by squeezing your back muscles and just pulling, or squeezing your hand, like the term squeezing the trigger on a gun. It's super hard to punch it. Just that alone is one of the major advantages to a handheld for target or hunting.
Right. I found myself a lot more consistent using a handheld than a index finger release, but much more consistent.
Now,
So,
Kevin, here's a question, Kevin. Do you have any issue with a handheld not having a strap around your wrist? Because I feel like it might be, something I'm so used to doing. It's like I want that to be part of my hand. You know what I'm saying? Like the strap, the index finger release. I like having that strap around. Is that not an issue with you?
I never had that. Like when I hang my bow up in the tree, like I clip the release onto, so it's
On the
there.
D-loop,
All that
so it's hanging.
when I reach for my bow, it's already there.
Yeah.
And like when I hit the thumb release, like it just stays in my hand. I haven't had that issue. I get what you're saying, but that hasn't been an issue for me.
Yeah, like I guess my fear is not using it all the time. I'm afraid I'll be hunting and have my hand. I guess your shot's already done, but like I'll drop it. You know what I'm saying? Or think it's part of my wrist and let go.
Yeah, I never had that problem. I get what you're saying, but you won't.
Watch my release fall 20 feet and smack the ground.
I can honestly say that I've never dropped a handheld release.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah.
Now I can't say I've never dropped my entire bow out of the stand.
Yeah.
I've never dropped just the release.
Yeah.
I can't say I've never forgot my release once or twice, but hey, we've all had that. I do.
Yeah.
I have the old I have another one sitting in my bag.
But I know people that will constantly like they lose their releases everywhere. It's like, oh, it's in the truck, oh, it's in the body. I'm like, they have no idea where the release is ever. Go hunting or you talked about dropping a bow. You're pulling your bow up your equipment line, right? You're saying you're looking down and it's spinning like a helicopter, and there's limbs, and or it gets hooked on the quiver. You're like, ooh, you're wincing, trying to pull it up delicately. That's always fun too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Kevin.
No, go ahead. You're good.
I was going to say, I'll tell you what I found is I've used handheld for quite a while and got used to it. Well, I sold a bow, and the guy I sold it to wanted that release. I was like, no, I'm not selling you. If you talked me out of it or talked me into it, and I went back to a wrist strap, and it was so uncomfortable climbing up the stand, clink, clink, clink.
Yeah, clink, clink.
I put it on, or anything I did in the stand, it made noise, and I finally just said, I'm going back to a thumb release, and I've been since. And
That's
groupings,
another reason.
You talked about the groupings. You know, at 30 yards, you could easily get a grouping like that. But with these handhelds, you can touch arrows a lot better than it gets dangerous. You start hitting different spots.
Yeah,
it gets expensive quick.
Robin Hood and arrows.
I had to start aiming at different dots because I was aiming at one dot, and I was blasting the fletchings off my arrows.
Yeah,
so
that's
now
not what
I
you
have
want.
3 arrows, 3 arrows with 2 fletchings. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, pros and cons of that, right?
Yeah. Start aiming at different spots.
No doubt. That's cool.
Tell us about the back tension, Robin.
That's one I've never used.
Yeah, those are scary.
That is the area of my least amount of expertise. In fact, I have no expertise. I've shot them a little bit just because we sold them. I'm just not a target archer. Like I'm a bow hunter. And I love archery, but I don't love target archery. And part of it's the whole target panic thing. That's really bad for me with spots and less of an issue on never really an issue on animals, less of an issue on 3D targets. But a tension release, whether it's a back tension or pull through tension, is a great tool to get away from punching the release, to focus on aiming the entire time, because for pure archery, you should be focusing only on where you're aiming and not focusing on when the bow's going to go off. And that's the crux of my target panic, because I start to learn when the bow's going to go off and anticipate it, and that causes me issues. But we are developing a full through release because they're becoming more and more popular. Even if people aren't hunting with them, or if they're not shooting them in competition, they're using them for training aids at home, to get ready for a hunt or to get ready for competition. And those are really, really shine, in my opinion.
Okay. I know the couple times I've shot one so far, no expert at all, but it's like when you're shooting a gun or a crossbow, whatever you're hunting with a trigger, the idea is to slowly squeeze, right, and not know what's going to go off. And with like a back tension, your blades are coming together behind your back, and as you draw, you kind of squeeze. At some point, it lets go. And I know they're adjustable, and that's something too, right, Robin? They're adjustable as far as the back tension on it before it lets go.
Yeah, typically people refer that to the speed, and they're adjustable. But the real trick for a back tension is you don't know when it's going to go off, so you have to concentrate on aiming until the bow decides, say the bow decides it's going to go off. That's not really what's happening, but that's a good way to put it. You have to aim until the bow has been off, and then you're forced to follow through too. You can't really pull off if you don't know the bow's going to go off.
Yeah, that's a great point. I would suggest anyone out there looking at a HotShot release, maybe, the idea here, try a few, find a neighbor, find a buddy that has one or whatever, try different scenarios and find out what works for you and your bow setup, because again, not one scenario is going to fit everybody, right? I mean, it depends on what you're doing.
That's a great point. Great point, because that's why we have, a handful of models. The internals on our upper end releases, they're all the same, exactly the same mechanism, but they're different handle shapes. And the reason is because the one that I like, Kenny might hate, as an example.
Yeah.
The one Kenny likes, you might hate. And one thing that we do for our customers, the first thing we say is go to your dealer and ask if they carry them. And if they carry ours, ask if you can try them. If your dealer isn't carrying them, of course, please ask them to carry them. But anyone that buys a release from us, they can buy one risk-free. If they buy it and they don't like it, but they want to try a different handle, all they have to do is shoot me an email, shoot us a note, and we'll swap it for free. Just send it in. As long as it's still in good condition, you haven't abused it, we're going to send you another one. And if you decide it's not for you and you want your money back, we'll do that too.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, I definitely relied on like the 4-finger one. I wanted something that all my fingers would fit on. I don't know. I didn't something about like just the 3-finger ones. I don't know. So it's
I think
definitely
it seems like when people make the switch, they gravitate to a 4-finger.
mhm,
And then as people get the hang of it or become accustomed to a handheld, the next one you try, you might gravitate towards a 3-finger. 3-finger seems to be what the more experienced handheld shooters go to. And there's no real reason. It's not because one's better than the other. I just think we like the security of being able to have our whole hand on it if we're not
mhm,
used to it.
right.
And then later on, some people like minimal touch on release, I
Mhm,
guess. In fact, we even have some 2-finger models that I don't
I know.
particularly like,
I've seen
but we
those.
do have a
That'd be crazy.
pretty big following. Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
That's something. So,
It is.
Robin, you have a talking hunting stories a little bit here, kind of finishing up the episode. And this end, you know, favorite hunting story, favorite adventure you've had in life, when, where, how.
Yeah. So, um, I really got to where turkeys were my thing, and I was killing 5 or 6 turkeys with a bow every spring.
Wow.
And you know, as we all know, turkey populations are going down everywhere. So I still do turkey hunt. I killed 3 last spring, and I love every minute of it. But we went to me and my wife and some other buddies went to Africa, South Africa, in 2022, and it was there's not enough there, the words you could see like every time I try
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
describe the trip to Africa we had, it was just absolutely amazing.
It's a special place.
So much so we're going to go back next July. It's going to, you know, really was meant to be a trip of a lifetime, something I wanted to do forever. When I met my girlfriend, now my wife, when we really got to talking, that was one of the things, you know, what's something you always wanted to do? And I said that. She's just like, well, we're doing it. And, you know, and it was really because of her pushing me. I finally decided to go do it. And we got engaged there, and that was amazing. Um, and so, yeah, we're going back next July, and I
Awesome.
can't wait. I've told people, and I really do mean this, as much as I love to hunt, I mean, bow hunting is my passion for sure.
Mhm.
I would give up hunting at home for good if I could just go to Africa every 2 or 3 years for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's a pretty special
Wow.
place.
I loved it that much. Yeah, I really
So
did.
That's on my bucket list.
What else did you hunt there? Like what species were you after?
So I set up with a list of 6 animals when I went, and I ended up killing 12 animals.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah, 9 different species. The reason it was 12 is I killed a couple kudu and a couple warthogs,
Okay.
and you know, doubled up on a couple things like that. But I shot kudu, warthog, impala, waterbuck, a sable. A sable was something I didn't plan on shooting at all until I saw him in person.
Yep.
It's such an amazing animal when you see one in person, and that was the case
Yeah.
for several animals. A Nyala was one that I had zero interest in based on pictures and videos, and then I saw one in person, and I absolutely wanted to have one of those. And a springbuck I shot, and
That's
I've
awesome.
lost kind of what I even said, but you could see, you know, I mean, it was my wife was like, God, if you want that, you should shoot it. We're never coming back, probably. You know, let's go for it.
Pile 'em up. Pile 'em up.
Yeah,
That's
I did.
awesome.
So I did. Yeah. In fact, this is a true story. First of all, I all my buddies knew I said I would never get married again. I met my now wife a little over almost 6 years ago, and she changed my mind on that. I decided to get married, so and proposed there. And then I started laying all these animals out. You know, my buddies a couple of them got together and literally came to me and my wife and sat down by the campfire and said, "Is there something you're not telling us?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Dude, did you have cancer or something?" Like, are you guys joking? They're like, you said you weren't going to get married.
Yeah.
You're laying out all these animals like your life's going to end next week. So what's going on?
Life happens, right?
Funny.
Life happens.
Right.
I
That's
totally
right.
understand that.
That's
I totally
right.
understand
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's cool though. Congratulations on that triple lifetime. I can
That's
definitely
awesome.
reiterate Like Kevin
I
and
appreciate
Kenny,
that.
Kenny, have you been there, South Africa?
No, so I am on the board of directors for Camp Valor Outdoors, who we're going to have on it in the future. They we got as that group bought a South African hunt. I think it's not 25, it's 26 that we're going, and I'm tagged to go on that one. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's
That's
definitely
awesome.
it's life changing. I reiterate, Robin, the same thing. Like it's just and a lot of guys sometimes you'll hear, you know, you'll get a flack here and there about it, you know, because like they say, well, you know, 99% are farms, but you're talking like 10,000 acres. I mean, it's so big, you know, and these animals are everywhere. So that's another conversation for another day. But they're just so dense. They're coming into water holes. You're getting to see and experience like the hides, you know, different types of hunting than back home here. And so I'm with you. Like I'm not judging any hunting around the world. People do. Like I'd love to go to Hawaii and hunt some of the goats they have there. You know, archery hunt those, and just different stuff, just stuff that, you know,
Yeah.
grew up whitetail hunting. It's cool to get out. It's cool to experience the world and get to see those experiences.
Yeah, it wasn't just the killing. I mean, it was the entire trip. It was the travel, the people,
the people,
the culture. The food was amazing. You know, we ate a lot of the animals that we killed. We got to try them, and they were like absolutely fantastic. And you know, every time you would be sitting or out walking or driving, you just never knew what you were going to see next. And it was just never a dull moment. Yeah, it's fantastic. I will say, if anybody wants to go next July, get a hold of me. We got some openings. I will also say, HotShot, we're about to launch a new release. We're hoping it's going to be around October 1st. And the PH that we went with, it's African Barefoot Safaris. They're going to do a giveaway tied to the launch of our new release. We're going to do something like one of the first 100 sold. Someone's going to win a hunt to go with us when we go. So keep an eye out for that. We'll have some details coming out soon. In fact, this is the first time publicly I've talked about the new release, and the first time publicly that I've talked about the hunt giveaway. So there'll be more info coming on that. So keep an eye on our social pages for that.
Okay, well, tell you what, Robin, thanks for coming on tonight. The Green Button Hunt Podcast. Again, like, share, give us a review, but stay aware of HotShot Archery and what they're doing. Check out their releases out there. I think it's a great discussion all the way around. So thanks again, Robin.
Yes, I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
You guys have a good night. Take care.
You too. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.